What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the NECA Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Godzilla. Here we do have the King Kaiju in the packaging. What we're going to do now is take a little break, get him open up, and then we'll have a better look at Godzilla. So stay tuned, everyone. And so here we have Godzilla posed and out of the packaging. Before we have a look at the figure, let's take a look at his one and only accessory. It is, of course, his tail. There is some assembly required when getting his tail connected to the rest of his body. Once you get it on, it's a really nice fit, although I will mention something when we get on to his detail. But other than that, this Godzilla doesn't come with anything. No atomic breath, no little buildings, no nothing. So this Godzilla is just Godzilla. We don't even get an atomic breath. We don't get little planes. No nothing for the King of the Monsters here. But that's okay. What we're going to do now is go over Godzilla's details. And so here we have a closer look at Godzilla from the new Godzilla King of the Monsters movie. And NECA did a really good job sculpting and painting this figure. If I had to choose between their original 2014 Legendary Godzilla versus this new one, this one is actually much better in my opinion. Now, he does share some parts. He does feel like a retool of the original 2014 version of Godzilla, but he is his own unique figure with some new sculpted parts. For starters, the head is a brand new sculpt. I really do love the way this head came out. If I have one criticism against it, it's the eyes. NECA did a good job painting everything but the eyes on this figure. I don't know what it is, but they just didn't do that good of a job painting his eyes. You can see the right eye did actually miss the mark, and the left eye is a little bit crazy. So they didn't do a good job painting his eyes or his teeth for that matter. You can see he does have his teeth painted, and let's see, the roof of his mouth is also painted, so they did take into consideration that. They even painted his tongue, but you can see the back of his mouth really isn't painted. You can see his, his chin underneath his mouth. I don't know what you want to call that, but it's not painted, and that's pretty much because his mouth opens up and it does expose that. There's ways they could have gotten around that, but NECA didn't do it, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But I do like the head sculpt on this Godzilla. It is retooled from the original one. It still has some of the same basic features to it, but it's not the same head sculpt. Now, looking at it when I first got it out of packaging, I thought this entire neck piece was one complete sculpt. It's not. Just the way it was in packaging, it looked flush, just like this, so you really couldn't see any articulation on it. But you can see his neck is well scaled back here. You can see Godzilla's gills right here. Yes, these are gills. And it's pretty much mirrored on both sides. So what you see on this side, you pretty much get on this side as well. So I'm just going to show off one side of Godzilla, unless I really have to show off the other side. But you can see he does have some really big scales right here, which I do appreciate how nice that looks. Moving on to Godzilla's spines. These look more Godzilla-esque in my opinion. The original 2014 Godzilla had kind of like pointy spikes. They weren't really Godzilla spines. These ones look much more like traditional Godzilla spines. So I really do like that. And you can see they do start at the base of the head, making their way all the way back, going along his spine. They did a really good job just with that, going all the way down to his tail. Those spines are really nicely done. So just great work by NECA here. You can see his tail also has those multiple rows of spines. Something I do like is that Legendary went with the traditional 3 rows of spines for Godzilla, and NECA did a really good job capturing it here. Now, he does share the same arms from the Legendary 2014 Godzilla, so his arms are the exact same mold, which it's okay. There was nothing wrong with the arms. They could have improved on them just a little bit, but the paint apps on this are much better than the original. He's this really dark gray plastic with some like green overwash on him, and it does bring out those details a lot more. You can see Godzilla's pecs are nicely sculpted. His claws, not the best paint job in the world. You can see it is kind of goopy on this hand, and on this hand they kind of missed most of the claw. So paint apps are going to be hit and miss here and there. Godzilla also does share the exact same leg, with the exception of the foot. Now, if you have the original 2014 Legendary Godzilla, this leg is the exact same sculpt. I went over it probably dozens of times, but he does share this entire leg piece, the calf piece, with the original Godzilla. This one does have nearly sculpted feet, so his feet are much more accurate to the movie, and I'm really glad NECA was able to get hold of the actual screen-used model and sculpt from there. Last time they pretty much had a rough idea what Godzilla would look like, and they just based it off that. So overall, really good detail. You can see even under his underbelly is sculpted really well. We have some layering right here, which looks good, going all the way down to the bottom of his tail, which I really do appreciate that. Now, I did mention before that there is some assembly required when putting Godzilla together. His tail is a separate piece, and you do have to plug this piece into the main tail. Something you can definitely notice is a color difference. Let's see, on this side, I think it's even worse. There's a big color difference right here on the tail. His tail should continue this paint application here, but you can see they kind of missed the mark, and it's not like a little bit, they definitely missed the mark. If he had the paint apps on the tail, this would be a much better figure in my opinion. I don't know why NECA did this. I don't know if it's just on mine or if it's a universal issue. I haven't seen too many reviews on this figure, so I don't know if this tail issue is an actual issue or if I just got unlucky with the paint apps. If you know down in the comments, let me know. Let me know if the tail is a reoccurring issue. But other than that, Godzilla here is really well done and sculpted really wonderfully. So what we're going to do now is actually move on to some quick comparisons with some other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Godzilla posed next to a DC Multiverse Superman and a Marvel Legends Cyclops. Here we have Godzilla posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Godzilla from King of the Monsters posed next to the original 2014 Legendary Godzilla. And finally, here we have Godzilla from King of the Monsters posed next to the NECA Shin Godzilla. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually move on to Godzilla's articulation. Now, Godzilla does sport quite a bit of articulation despite being a non-traditional figure. Let's actually have a look at his articulation. He does have a ball joint in the head, although we really don't get much up and down movement. We do get some side-to-side rotation. It is on a ball joint. I can move it up and down a little bit, but just the way it's sculpted onto this neck, you don't get too much play about it. That's one thing I don't like, is that his neck is thicker than the 2014 Godzilla, so we do lose some articulation there. This part is also on a ball joint. It can tilt side to side very little, and that's just because the way it's sculpted right up here and right here. You can see it does butt up against this spike right here, so we don't get too much side-to-side movement, and we really don't get much up and down movement either, and it does rotate left and right, so you're pretty much only going to get rotation out of that joint. His arms do have a ball joint here in the shoulder, so it does go out, does a full 360, swivels in and out. We don't get a bicep swivel, but we do have some rotation right there. We have a hinge in the elbow, which goes down and forward to about there, and then some rotation. We have a hinge and rotation here at his hand, although I'm pretty sure Godzilla is just going to have his arms facing forward. We do have a ball joint right here in the torso, and it's not as loose as I would like it, but it's pretty tight, and it does rotate pretty well. It does lean side to side. Can it move forward? Yes, it moves forward. Doesn't really move back because of the way it's sculpted. And you can see just me messing with it has loosened it up a little bit, so I don't know if I should have been messing with it as much as I was. But, oh well. Legs do have a ball joint in them. They can rotate on the ball joint. They do go forward and back. They have a bend in the knee, although this is pretty much the bend that you're getting does go straight like that. We do have a ball joint in the ankle, so we do get some movement going back. Not really forward, but we do have some really nice side-to-side pivot. Then we do have a ball joint here at the base of the tail, so we do get some inward movement, some up and down movement, side to side, as well as rotation. Right here we have another ball joint, so it goes side to side, up, down, rotate. Another ball joint here at this segment of the tail. We have another ball joint right here. Another ball joint right here where the accessory tail attaches into his main tail. And unlike previous Godzilla figures, they actually have ball joints running the length of his tail. Originally on the 2014 Godzilla, this part had a bendy wire in it, which it was okay. It wasn't the greatest, but I think I prefer the ball jointed tail because it does give it a more natural movement. And it looks and functions much better. So I really do like that he has ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, and then another ball joint right here. So overall, really good articulation on the tail and pretty decent for a Godzilla figure, to be honest. Now with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him posed for my final thoughts so we can wrap up this review. And so here we have Godzilla posed for my final thoughts. Overall, I really love the way this figure came out, and I really do think it's a huge improvement from the 2014 Godzilla that NECA did give us. Although I do have some issues with the paint, especially with the eyes being a little off-centered, the mouth not being properly painted, and of course, that tail. If that tail was painted all the way through, I think I would like this figure so much more. But as it stands, I really do like the way this Godzilla looks. He represents more of a Godzilla-esque feel than the original 2014 model did. This Godzilla does have better spines and better paint apps in my opinion. Now, if they can fix the eyes and the mouth as well as that tail, I think all the other figures should be good, and I am looking forward to getting the Atomic Breath variant that NECA is releasing. Although I don't like the fact that you don't get too much movement in the head, he's still a really good figure to have for any Godzilla collector or any giant monster collector. If you are lucky enough to find this figure, I really do recommend you pick him up, especially if you're a Godzilla fan like I am, or just want a really awesome kaiju for your Jaegers to fight if you've picked up the NECA Pacific Rim figures. This Godzilla will run you about $27 after tax, which is pretty good seeing as how NECA is charging $25 per figure. $27 is pretty good and in the ballpark of something that you can pay realistically and feel good about yourself. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other action figure reviews as well as all my other NECA videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. And while you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.